Well, hello there, I'm Détroit. I'm gonna draw a kitchen with an extreme perspective, and I'm sure there will be no twist by the end of the drawing. Nothing creepy today, I swear. I like working with an extreme perspective like this. It's different from the usual point of view that I tend to draw, which is much more flat. As you can see, I'm putting the perspective points far away from the canvas, and the horizon line is very slanted. To easily trace my perspective grid, I'm using the Polygonal tool in Photoshop. To set it up, you need to click the gear at the top of the screen and select Star. Putting the indentation selection at 99%, the maximum, you get a nice thin star with as many branches as you like. Or 100, which is the maximum actually. These stars are polygons, which allows you to modify them easily rather than tracing the lines by hand, and that's what I'll use for my perspective grid. After setting up the planes for the scene, I can go in with a fine tip brush to sketch what I'm drawing, a kitchen. A kitchen is a nice scene to draw, with as many details as you'd like, and there's nothing creepy about it. As a reference, I did use my own kitchen, but changed a few things to make it better in drawing form. And yes, I did stand on a chair to take a picture with a relatively similar angle. I won't go for realism today, rather I'm making a lineless painting because that's what I feel like doing. Last week's drawing video, the fighting zombie chicken, was really nice to make, and I want to work without line art again today. Besides, drawing line art with such a perspective is always a bit harder, and I usually need like 15 attempts to get one line straight. As you can see, there are so many straight lines, inking it all would take hours. With the soft brush I will be using to paint, I won't care too much if it isn't perfectly straight. But if I were to add line art, it would immediately feel clunky. There's a balance to find between straight lines and curved lines. During your inking, if you use the straight line thing in Photoshop, by clicking the screen then holding shift and clicking again, making a straight line in between the 2 points, the line is almost too perfect, and you quickly lose the natural aspect to your drawing. If you use perfectly straight lines for, let's say, the squares on the wall here, then every item you draw will feel badly drawn in comparison. So today I'm removing all of that aspect by simply not drawing line art. You are seeing everything I plan on drawing here. It is impossible to turn this drawing creepy. And there is no reason for me to bring that up, so watch the video until the end. Now that the sketch is complete and all the details are in, it is time to start building the colors. You will notice that the canvas is a bit crowded with lines at the moment, between the sketching layer and the perspective grid. I'll lower the opacity for the latter, but unfortunately I still need it for my color blocks. The way this is going to work, I'm painting in big areas of similar color. That's the counter, the drawers, the tiles on the wall, the fridge, you get the idea. The brush I'm using is a soft brush, one that was originally a rock texture that I repurposed to painting brush. I like the slight feathering the brush has. For flats, I use it as is, which means no opacity or size change. After the flats though, I will turn on the opacity and size change with the pressure of the stylus to paint the shadows and overall shading. For me, this is a very versatile brush that I like a lot and I'm used to drawing with it. For now though, I'm just coloring the flats. I am being much more attentive to the edges than I was during the sketch, although not making perfect straights. Same as I said earlier, making straight lines is sometimes unnatural, and that also happens to the flats. As you may notice, I am drawing every surface on a new layer. I say you may notice it because at some point OBS Studio doesn't record the Photoshop overlay anymore, but only the canvas. I don't know why. Anyway, let's talk layers. Every single thing is on a different layer. The big shapes at first, and that's good because I can tweak the colors and make them nice together at this point. I want a very pastel color, desaturated and mostly bland. When at the end of the drawing I add in a light source, it will be even more radiant this way. For the big flat shapes, I need about 10 layers to keep them separate, and then I will add every new layer as a clipping mask for shading. So that's about 10 layers, plus at least 5 layers per clipping mask, I would say. And that is still before I add any detail, like the spoons and plates. For the entire drawing process, I never once named a single layer. Let me say that it was very hard to navigate between 150 layers I haven't named after a while. But at the same time, who wants to name 150 layers? That's what I thought. So if you see an object or a plane blinking in and out of existence rapidly, that's me trying to find what I'm looking for. There is something I didn't film during this process, but it might be a good tip for any digital artist. Whenever I finished a drawing session, which would usually be 30 minutes, I would add an empty layer at the top of the drawing folder with bright pink marks on all the things I needed to do. For example, if I forgot to add the shadows under a spoon, I'll leave a bright pink arrow in that area. Then, the next drawing session, I'll export that as a PNG and open it on another monitor. You can't see it, but I can refer to it to make sure I don't forget important details. Most of these details being what I aptly named the greens after a while. Instead of drawing every item in the right color and think about it to choose said color, I draw all the details in green with the same shading tone. This way, all of them are coherent with each other, and it's much easier too. I'm adding spoons, plates, dirty dishes, clean ones, boxes of spices, all sorts of things that you can find in a kitchen on a daily basis. Nothing creepy, as is the theme for this whole drawing, just a normal kitchen. Anyway, looking at this entire drawing process from afar, you can really see that it makes sense. Starting with the big shapes, then going to a smaller scale every time. That is the obvious way to do it, and yet I used to not do it for a long time, even though I knew about it. So I am bringing it up regularly in the hopes that even one of you learns from it. When all the greens, the detail layers, are in, I use a coloring layer on top of it to pick the colors. The way the coloring layer style works, it will keep the saturation and value of the layer and just change the hue. This is why at first it looks very unnatural, because the detail layers are more saturated than the rest. To solve that, I am coupling the coloring layer with the hue, saturation and brightness settings layer. I just lower the saturation and change the brightness until it flows well with the rest of the drawing. For the silverware, the spoons and forks and stuff, I use a different combination of layers to make them more grey than the rest, or more metallic looking. And when that is done, the picture is almost complete. It is blend looking, which is perfect for the next step, adding highlights. For once, I am not using clipping masks, but simply drawing on top of everything. With the largest possible brush size and very low opacity, I make a large red cloud. I will duplicate it a few times to make it a soft light layer and also a crude light layer at the same time. I want the red tone to go through where the light will hit, but still be soft around the edges. To emphasize it a bit more, I add brighter highlights on objects on the path of the light. And that's it. There's definitely no more footage after that. Here's the final picture. Subscribe for more drawing videos, oh, and like this one, and leave a comment telling me what I should draw next. You can find all my art over on Instagram and on Twitter, link is in the description. I'll see you around.
Bye!